Hi, everyone. Welcome to Up Close and Empowered, where my intention is to awaken you to your true power. I'm Sonna Johns. Thanks so much for listening this week. And for all of you that are following my show and listening every week, I really appreciate your feedback. Feel free to reach out to me at sonnalife.com and give me your feedback. And if there's anything that you'd like to hear in the future, please let me know. So that's at sonnalife.com, sonnalife.com. So today we have a very special show in a lot of ways because it's really kind of close to my heart because I have a guest on today that was really in the world that I was in for about 10 years, but she has about 20 years in the corporate world. And we're going to talk a lot about how things are changing and some of the ways that she is changing the way female entrepreneurs and female business leaders are doing business today, concentrating on the mind, body, and soul. But we're going to get more into that. So, my guest is on a mission to unleash the power within high achieving women. And she says, imagine living a life where self prioritization isn't a luxury, but a necessity, where guilt and overwhelm take a back seat and where thriving becomes your new normal. So, this is the world that Laurie Schible is creating. A place where we as women not only survive, but thrive, setting the stage for generations to come. And this is what I love about it because it's all about making a difference and an impact in the world. And we really need this right now. So she has quite a background in this 20-year stint in corporate America of climbing the ladder, juggling parenthood, globetrotting for work, and nurturing her own personal relationships. And she's now here to integrate personal and professional development, guiding women to becoming the powerhouse leaders that they aspire to be. What sets her apart is the culmination of her diverse experiences from corporate leadership, various certifications, performing improv, and years of her own personal development and personal growth. Now, her work is a transformative fusion of neuroscience, somatic bodywork, holistic wellness, and leadership development. So, all of that in one, which is just beautiful. I just love it. I'm so excited to talk to Laurie today. So it's not about reviving your mind, body, and soul. It's about your mindset mastery and emotional intelligence that will propel you forward. So today, my guest is Laurie Schible, and I'm so excited to have her to the show because this is all what I'm so familiar with, and I know I'm going to have some memories as I'm talking to you because we have a lot of things that we've experienced, throughout the years. So, Laurie, thank you so much for being here on the show.
Thank you so much, Sana. And I really appreciate such a warm welcome. And it's so amazing. And we have so much to talk about. We have so much in common. And we both came
Yes.
from this vast background and, that provided us so much experience and, understanding. And really, like what I learned out of this is just it's a human condition thing, right? It's about us. And I did not get that for so long. So
Mhm.
thank you for having me here today to talk about this very important subject.
Yes, it is very important. I'm really happy to have you here today, especially since you have this background in the corporate world and you've seen a lot, you've done a lot, you've experienced a lot, you've felt a lot, and now you're taking all of this knowledge and experiencing it and or experiences and bringing it to the forefront and helping other individuals, not only women, which we'll talk about in a minute, but your focus is women, but you also work with men as well, but
Mhm.
bringing them to the forefront of really connecting the mind, body, and soul. And like you said, mindset mastery, emotional intelligence, and really taking time out for self prioritization, which is so important because
Mhm.
we just need it. We need it for our overall mental and well being.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, it's so critical. And the premise of this is that we have really been born and raised into a construct of we're in this amazing in the US, we're an amazing company, country of capitalism with endless opportunities, right? And it varies around the world. And what we are really looking at is a conditioned way of operating that is why we are showing up the way that we are, which is ultimately wearing us out, depleting us, exhausting us, and oftentimes landing us in burnout. And we get to actually figure out how to operate differently. We get to do this differently. So
Hmm.
it really is about taking the way that we've been conditioned and learning skills and tools on how to actually do life and work differently so that we are not just in this constant reactatory survival space, but we are actually thriving and loving our life and loving our work, feeling like we're making a meaningful difference, and not killing ourselves in the process.
Right, right. Well, you're so I want to hear about your story, but while we're on the subject for a minute, because you get me going on this.
That's right, I know.
But it is
Me
it
too.
all it is all about conditioning that we have, ingrained in our being and how we are. And I find that a lot of people, and you probably feel the same, that they don't even know the tools. Like they don't even know where to begin. They're so busy on this wheel of life, just go, 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 that they don't even know that there are tools out there.
So, so true, right? And it's really interesting that a lot of what we are taught, especially in, in our work environments, a lot of professional development, and a lot of that is focused on goals, structure, productivity, efficiency, which drives like competition and linear and really drives also isolation and it drives separation,
Mhm,
right? So, and I think we all can experience that we are lacking in connection, right? And
mhm,
that's a missing construct, but also just the way that we have been really ingrained to operate is what really is in a masculine trait system,
mhm,
right? And we know that we have masculine and feminine traits. That's not to say male gender, it's not male female, it's not a gender thing. It is actually basically just different qualities. It's
mm.
different traits and
Right,
ways of operating, and a masculine construct is linear, goal oriented, independent, right? I can do it
right.
alone,
Mhm,
very like driven, achievement, success, right? Giving a lot.
mhm, mhm.
Our feminine traits are that of connection, collaboration, right? Empathy, vulnerability, creativity, actually receiving, and then like fluidity and flow. And the way that I see it is the way that we've been conditioned for all of us, all humans, is we're so far into our masculine traits and we're just negligent in our feminine traits.
Mhm,
And what that does is creates us to be we're really off balance, right? So all of us, men, women, we're all operating heavily in those linear structured, goal oriented, pushing, high achieving in those masculine traits to a point where it's almost distorted, right? Like we're doing it
right.
so
Mhm,
far to that side that it's no longer beneficial, right? Because
mhm.
those traits are super valuable. They've
Right,
gotten us to where we are now, right? Our level of success, of achievement, of everything that we've created, highly valuable, and it's come at a cost. And the cost is when we're deficient in those feminine traits, we're lacking in real connection, right?
mhm.
We're not vulnerable, and when we're not vulnerable, we can't create connection. Instead of collaborating and working together, we're working against each other and we're competing, which is driving us, right,
Mhm.
to have self-doubt, questioning our values, right, and go into all of those things, and we are so go, go, go all the time, we're running ourselves into the ground.
Right.
So that's really the essence for from where I see it is really where we have a lot of room for improvement. And it's really just the willingness to bring in and really strengthen some of those feminine traits and rebalance the two,
Mhm.
right? It's about really kind of coming more towards the middle of balancing the masculine and the feminine where we can really excel versus us all being so far sighted typically to that masculine trait side to the point where it's become dysfunctional and distorted and is actually hurting us.
Right, right. Definitely an imbalance for sure. And I
Mhm.
want to get into more of that, Lori, about the
Yeah.
feminine traits and that kind of thing and utilizing those traits and cultivating that. But before we get into that, I want to tell our listeners a little bit about your background, like just an overview of, what did the last 20 years consist of? What were some of the things that you noticed? What were some of the things that you're like, wow, or did you not notice? Were you too caught up?
Mhm.
So give us an idea of where you were, like I
Yeah.
know it's 20-year span, but, maybe just highlight it for us.
Absolutely. So I've been running my own business as a coach for the last 7 years. The 20 years prior to that, I was in corporate. So in the corporate environment I was in a consumer products organization. Really, that span was 12 years with one organization, 6 years with another, and a couple years in the beginning of my career with another company. And the entire time, I was in sales and marketing, and I was always in leadership. Outside of my first role, I was always managing a team up to like 15, 18 people.
Mhm.
Um, so I was on the fast track and I was fueled by it because I was fueled by the competition. I learned very fast. I was very good at sales. I really like figured out the art of relationship building and selling.
Mhm.
And that further fueled me, right? And now insert construct of, oh, we're going to intentionally have you competing against each other, right? Driving it. And it was like a series every 2 years, I was getting promoted. So I was very caught up in that lure
Mhm.
of constantly climbing the ladder, right? Of getting more responsibility, elevating my role, increasing my paycheck. And I was completely caught up in that process. And along the way, I really went through really what was kind of like the roller coaster cycle, the ebb and the flow in and out of burnout.
Mm.
And I didn't
Mhm.
really realize that until at least a good decade into my career. I didn't get it. I just knew like I'm exhausted. Like, what
Yeah.
is this? What is going
Right.
on?
But you just kept going. You just kept
And
going
I
and
kept
going.
going blindly. I mean, blindly,
Mhm.
right? Like I just kept pushing and
Yeah.
pushing. And I didn't realize I was operating so far beyond my capacity every day,
Mhm.
right? That I was creating my own exhaustion, drain, depletion, right? Getting sick, all the things, right? We wear out our systems, our immune system,
Mhm.
um, everything. So here I am operating in this cycle. And it really was because I was operating so far in that distorted space of my masculine traits, right? That
Right.
hyper achievement, over driving, over functioning. And on top of that, I was a total perfectionist. So I couldn't just do the job. I couldn't just do it well. I
Mhm.
had to like do it to the best of my ability. And I was very thorough about it.
Right.
Right. So we have that layered in there and also people pleasing. Right. And that was a more subtle thing that I didn't really understand. Like I did that because I didn't want to disappoint people. I did that because I was really trying to prove my value and prove
Right.
my worth,
Mhm.
right? And that
Yes.
worth became the driver for me that
Yes.
had me overdoing everything. And it was that really was the cycle of causing all of my exhaustion and kind of going through those cycles.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and eventually it kind of caught up with me, right? I remember one night I was 9 months pregnant and this was in a marketing gig. It was the only 4 years I actually worked
Mhm.
inside an office. Outside of that, I worked from home, but I traveled constantly for work. So I was in the office. It was 2 a.m. And I am, of course, very thoroughly and completely putting together a presentation to really like promote my team for a presentation I had to give at 8 o'clock that morning. And my ankles are swollen. I am
Wow.
so exhausted. I can't think straight. And it was just
Wow.
those like moments
Mm.
in time where I am like, what am I actually doing? And I just remember thinking, I just have to make it to maternity leave. I was that strung out. I'm like, if I can
Wow.
just get to maternity leave, like thinking that'll be better, right? Exhausting
Mhm.
nights, not sleeping, didn't think about that. And all I knew was, okay, all I know is that when I come back, that something has to change, right? Either something in the organization has to change or I have to make a change, but I can't keep operating this way.
Right, right, and most of the time it's us, like, we have to change. I mean, it's hard for
Absolutely.
us to change any organization, it's really up to us to find a way, but to be self-aware enough of what's happening, and if I'm hearing you right, like, you're saying that you were just so caught up in it, you weren't really in that awareness, you were just really into, like, doing the best, being the best, and achieving, which is a what a lot of women go through, like, they wanna be the best
Mhm,
at everything, they're overdoing and just like you said, and you get so caught
mhm.
up in that, and I think that it just not
Yeah.
only keeps us out of balance, but we really kind of forget who we are. We forget who we really are. Like
Yes.
we're just we want the validation, we wanna be this, we wanna do this, and it's like, "Well, wait a minute, what about me?"
Yes, and I love that you mentioned that, Sana, because that's one of the biggest things is along that way, we literally forget who we are because our identity becomes
Yeah,
the achiever, the one who gets promoted, the this, the job title, the thing. That's not who we are, right? But because that's the way we operate, right? Our brain goes, "Oh, well, this is what we're doing. This must be who we are." And we start to identify ourselves with that, and then ingrained goes the identity like this is what I am. And, I remember thinking, like, I don't actually know who I am or what I would be without my identity at work.
mhm,
And that was a real wake-up call for me. I'm like, "But wait,
right,
I'm a mom, I'm a free-spirited this, I'm a performer, I'm a lover of nature, like, all of these things." And all I could identify with was the title I had or my identification of, "I'm this type of person who achieves this at work."
right, and
Just forget.
identification is honestly like a whole other show. I mean, if you think about it, it's a
Yes.
whole other episode because,
It really is.
it's attachment, it's being attached to something, it's identifying with something, and if something goes wrong, like, you don't your world crumbles, and we
Mhm.
have to get to a place where we're really at peace with ourselves regardless, and I know that that's the kind of work that you do. So, we're gonna talk a
Yes.
little bit more about that. We're gonna take a quick break for a few minutes here, and we'll be back right after this, and we'll talk a little bit more about that with Lori. Okay.
Awesome.
Hi, everyone. We're back from the break. This is Sonna Johns with Up Close and Empowered, and I'm talking with Laurie Schible today, who is a leadership coach, and she is sharing some incredible wisdom, a wealth of wisdom from being in the corporate world, and really kind of changing her life in a way to impact others that are still in the corporate world and the business world. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that right now. And Lori, what I was thinking behind or in the break, I was thinking about like, what are some of the things that you've seen over the years with other people? Like, are you seeing them exhausted? What are some of the
Mm.
changes or some things that you've observed, from where you were 20 years ago and where you are now? Has there been any changes? Is it slight? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's such a great question. And I think, one thing I always reflect on is one of my neighbors is actually my former boss. And every year he has a Christmas party and I have a lot of, ex coworkers that come and it's like it's so good to see them all. And what was so fascinating to me is like kind of my first several years out of it, the environment was super, super tough, right? Lots of complaining, and what I would observe is because of this whole process that we just were not aware of, right? Of this operating in this highly masculine trait construct, which was we were creating it ourselves, right? Overworking, overdoing all the things, yet everyone stayed,
Mhm.
right? And it really, for me, it is how like, being in it, I did not with the tools that I have now, I wish that I had back then because I did not really gain these tools until after I left,
Oh, I
and
know.
it was only because this was my passion, right? It's my passion to I knew leadership was always I always loved mentoring people. That was my jam, my thing, and I found my way here, and I see a lot of women still experiencing what I was experiencing. And we now have these tools that can help women, right? Because for me, we don't have to leave. in order to get relief or change, right? We don't have to go do something else. We can, we don't have to, because
Mhm.
the core of what I learned, it was me. It was because of the way I was operating.
Mhm.
Right? So and it was that moment where I was like, "Oh, Houston, we have a human problem, and I'm it." Right? It was
Yeah.
like that was
Yeah.
my turning moment when I was learning. So I know that it is possible to shift. What I am seeing, I still am hearing a lot of the same stories, a lot of the same challenges and issues. What I will say though is I really do think the pandemic, if there's a gift out of the pandemic, it was that it forced everyone in the entire world to actually take a breath and pause. And part of our challenge is we are so busy that our nervous systems are hardwired to be on,
Mhm.
on, on. It's pure adrenaline all day long. But
Totally.
our nervous system actually is so uncomfortable in the pause.
Oh, I
It's
know.
we're
Yeah.
ignoring it, right? And but when we were all forced to pause, we didn't have an option, right?
Right.
That
Very
woke
true.
a lot of people up, and it was highly triggering for a lot of people, right? And we all kind of evolved and did our thing, and then we went
Mhm.
online, realized we don't have to go into work. Like, there was this whole actual how we work and what it looks like shift, and the biggest part is people at home now, especially women, just because primarily they were the ones that again, we're the ones doing all the things. We just took it upon ourselves to be the ones checking in with the kids and their school and are they okay and doing all the things. And now like it's all intermingled and it's 24/7. Whoa, burnout massive, right? Which
Right.
is why you saw
Mhm.
so many women leave. That was like the iceberg that flew over, right? And now that we're on the other side of it and we've experienced a different way to work, um, I am hearing often that people are starting to question, okay, I don't want to go back to that. And w- can't we get done in this time? What like there's a lot of
Mm.
things that are now being questioned, and I think the biggest thing is a lot of people actually experienced pausing, having better balance in their life because it was forced, and saying, "Oh, I can actually work my job and actually have a life. Oh, this is
Mhm.
actually possible." So I do think the result of that is forcing organizations and us as people to all shift and really question how we've been operating up till now, because
Yeah.
we've just been kind of doing it like I was doing it with total blinders on,
Right.
oblivious and just in the hall. And now that we have kind of paused and we've opened our eyes and we've slowed down a minute and are really looking at like, oh, there could be different ways to do this. We are starting to question it. And I do hear a lot of employees are starting to just question things and bring things up and ask for opportunities and more flexibility and differences. So I really, really do think that change already has happened,
Mhm.
right? And
Right.
companies who are at the forefront of that and who are nurturing it and get it and working with it are growing and excelling, and it's great. And I hear the companies that are not embracing it and are kind of forcing all this or that, the
Mhm.
employees are really struggling, and it's been very challenging for companies because they feel the disconnect between what they want, how they want to be operating, and how employees want to operate.
Right, that's why it's
Uh,
so important to bring this type of information into the workplace, into the companies, because
uh,
people need to know how to cope, how to deal, how to be alone or, still and quiet and,
mhm.
focus on what they need to focus on other than work to just refresh, recharge. Because when we're in a good state of mind, and our personal relationships are thriving and we're feeling good and our well-being, then we're going to thrive at work. It all goes
Yeah,
together. It's like personal and professional, they go together no matter how you slice it. I don't care what anybody says. It's the same. Like you have to learn to, one can affect the other and the other can affect the other. It just, it revolves. So it's important to get in that space and get out of the autopilot is what I was hearing you saying, is that
yeah,
we're in this autopilot. We're unconsciously doing these things every day and we're not even thinking about it because we just got to do. But then when we had to step back, we're like, okay, wow, all right, wow, that really, like, things start to really become clear as you slow
yeah,
down. And I always say, like, we just have to slow down a little bit and just observe a little before we react, you
yeah,
know?
and it also I do think that I think that companies too are a lot more aware of just the mental toll that
Mm,
that is
right.
just taken on everyone, and everyone's current mental state, right, has really shifted. There's a lot of struggle
Hmm.
and nurture and I see a lot of companies that are really, really sincerely want to support their human capital and get that and aren't sure how. And that
Right.
is where, right, when I went through, it was like everything was focused on professional development, right? Professional structure. Like I learned professional presence. Like I wore that armor like nobody's business, right? And and now I think that there's a lot more receptivity to really what is personal development because it is like they're understanding like, oh, we have to actually truly focus on the human and the inner workings of the human, which is how we think about anything, right? Like nurturing our mental wellness and our emotional wellness. And but companies are struggling with how to do that.
Right,
And
and
that's
that's why they
really
need people like you and other people to go in and show them how to do this. What are the
sad.
steps? And that's why it's so important. And I think that these companies that take, the time and effort to do this for their employees, I think that they're gonna reap the rewards and
Yeah.
in profitability down the line and happier employees because when we have these skills, we know how to use them when we need to. I always call them our
Mhm.
go-to, and really connecting with yourself. This is really a game changer because when we're in solid in ourself,
Yeah.
that, that emits out into our workplace, which obviously
Yes.
translate to better business and happier people working you know, in the company. So I think
Yeah.
it's really, really important. And so when you're talking about we're going to shift back into the female skills here because you're saying that, we were talking
Mhm.
about being out of balance earlier and
Mhm.
how, you help women kind of get in more balance and get more in touch with their feminine nature. So can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, and actually this ties directly into this whole conversation about what do we do?
Hmm.
Because, right, we've been highly conditioned to be really, really practice and operating in our masculine traits. Remember, men and women, right? This isn't just a woman or a man thing. This is all humans have masculine and feminine traits, right? So we have masculine leadership skills and we have feminine leadership skills. We need both. And in this we've been blinded on, right, is we've been so highly operating in the masculine traits and skills, all of us, what this is now showing us, the way that we support ourselves mentally and emotionally, and the way that we actually handle what is a real issue and problem right now is isolation and loneliness because so many people work remotely now. Um,
Hmm.
all of those skills are our feminine traits and feminine leadership skills. So, both men and women, we all get to embrace those, which are connection, collaboration, compassion, the ability to receive, right? Think about how tough it is for us to receive support and help, both men and
Right.
women.
Right. Yeah.
Being able to be more fluid versus such a rigid, structured, like linear process, allowing for flexibility, allowing for people to work at both home and in the office, and trusting that when you give them these skills, they're happier, they're more connected, they're more compassionate. And because of that, they're also more connected to their colleagues they're more connected to their work, they're
Mhm.
more connected to making a difference and showing up, which also makes our employees more productive, more efficient, more engaged, right? That is actually the missing link of really working in these feminine leadership skills is a big part of what actually supports the whole system.
Right, it makes total sense. It's
Mm,
so powerful. It is
yeah.
incredibly powerful, and I think that a lot of people don't understand how powerful it really is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like inner power. I mean, it totally is, and when you get
Yes.
to that, you get to cultivate that, it just everything falls into place. It's just something about happens to your energy, I mean, yeah, I know you know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. It just happens, and I think that
Yeah.
it's great for confidence. It's great for really
Yes.
feeling centered and really feeling grounded. Don't you agree? In all the chaos of work, I mean, it helps us to actually get more grounded when we need to.
Yes. I mean, you think about that, like, when you feel supported, you feel seen, you feel heard, and you feel connected, that
Mhm.
just your confidence soars, right?
Right.
Your confidence soars, you're not as afraid to mess up or make a mistake, people have your back, there's a support system in place, right? That's where we excel. That's where we literally
Right.
get set on fire and soar. And that energy, right, that you're talking about,
Mhm.
that is it's the energy of engagement. Like that's what you want with employees is that high level of engagement. The same is true with business owners, right? It's like when we
Mhm.
are centered in that and we are creating that environment for ourselves, like that is it's like the inner fire lit from within that exudes outward. And the way that it demonstrates itself is confidence, right? Empowerment. Because really,
Mhm.
when we land there, and we let go of perfectionism. We create boundaries. We're able to stand up and really know what we want and what we don't want. And we're clear. We're able to say yes to our yeses and no's to the no's. That is us standing in our power and
Right.
coming from a very grounded, aligned place. And when we have that, right, that is the equation of
Mhm.
better balance, but it is the equation of actually showing up and feeling great and thriving in life. And that's
Right.
empowerment, right?
Yeah. No, it really is, and I think that when we take the time to be self-committed and we show up for
Mhm.
ourselves and we do this work, it's like building a muscle every day. It's like consistency, as you know, it's consistent all the time. And then you do start to feel like, whoa, like you almost feel like an inner energy change and also your outer energy, but you do feel more confidence. You do feel more grounded and more self-assured in so many ways. Because think about it, you're taking time for yourself. You're telling yourself, I'm a prioritization and I'm gonna do this to feel good. And when you tell your subconscious that, then it affects everything because you're not being pulled, you know what I mean? You're not allowing yourself to be pulled in
Yeah.
so many directions. So I just think it's so important. And I think it's just, really, really key, especially when it comes to working in the corporate world.
Yeah, and what it really does too, it develops when we're so cognitive, right? We're always like heady, right? We're thinking from our head. We got to think
Mhm.
our way through. But really what it takes is connecting our mind to our bodies. And it's tuning in. It's actually listening to your body and knowing what is my actual current capacity level? When do I need to rest and when can I push
Mhm.
through? Right? And it helps us tune into our intuition, and when we keep showing up for ourselves that way, we develop deep trust in ourselves.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
that gives a very solid foundation for us to stand on so that when things go awry, it doesn't knock us over.
Right. I
Huge.
so powerful, so powerful. Okay, we're going to take one more break here and we'll be back in just a few minutes and we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the techniques and some of the things that Lori coaches on and also what she's working on, how you can get in touch with her and where she things that, most of you can take advantage to thrive in the future, like where you can start. What are the beginning steps to get to that point? So we'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back, everybody, to Up Close and Empowered. I'm talking to Laurie Schible, a leadership coach, and she's going to share right now a few things that she actually works on with her clients when she's teaching them some of the her new techniques of self prioritization, things that have to do with mindset and emotional mastery. And Laurie is going to share a few things right now that we can start to use immediately.
Yeah, yeah. So really, the focus for me is on you. It is on the human and it is your inner working. And it is just simple, simple things that we do that over time make a profound difference in our life. And the result of it is that you feel so much more like ease and have fun and joy in your life. And also, you get time back in your life because we let go of all the mental and emotional energy that is completely draining us. And it gets very simple to make decisions. We get very clear about what we want and what we don't want in life, which literally gives us time back in life for what
Right.
matters to us most. And this work also helps you become so much more efficient and productive in your work because you're not spinning. You're not spinning
Right.
out in cycles.
Hmm.
So that's really the impact of how powerful this work can be. So I want to give everybody a really, really simple tool that you can actually apply to yourself right now and just take with you. So in mindset work, right, our thoughts are everything. So contrary to how much we would like to believe, we can never control other people and we can never control situations, right? People will do what they do. They have their own view of the world and how it works. It's different from ours. And we can never control situations. They're always going to happen. Things will always come up. But the one thing we always have control of is the way we think about anything. So, your first step to this is self awareness. And it is really becoming consciously aware of what you are thinking about anything in any moment. And just awareness, by the way, if you become aware of, like, oh my gosh, I am totally thinking about how worthless I am right now and no one will ever da 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 da. Like, when
Hmm.
you become aware of that, that alone, just the awareness in itself is a breakthrough for you because it helps you see your patterns. And once you see something and you know it, you're aware of it, you can't unknow it, right? You can't take it
Right.
back. So
Yeah.
it is so, so powerful. And our thoughts, our language, the things that we say to ourselves are the things that we're feeding our unconscious brain, where everything is stored. That when we say it over and over again, or if somebody is saying something to us over and over again, it gets stored as a belief. And when we keep saying those things to ourselves over and over, then it becomes a part of our identity. We
Hmm.
think it is just who we are. "Oh, that's just me. Oh, I'm just
Hmm.
late all the time." Like, that just it's just who I am, because only because we have created habits that make us late, and we've done it over and over, and we've told ourselves that, and we've shamed ourselves for being late, and then we get it reinforced externally from other people who are
Yeah.
like, "Why are you late all the time?" Now we have identified ourselves as somebody who's late. And literally, it's just a thought, right? It's a thought that created habits that created how you show up in the world. So if we just simply start telling ourselves in that example, right? Oh, I am a person who shows up early. And oh, this is what I do in order to show up early. And then we take an action towards that, right? We set an alarm, we do something very intentional to show up, right? If we're used to, like, oh, I have to be there at 5 and we think 5 and we think, oh, instead I have to be there at 4:45 and we take the action to do that and we do it over and over consistently. Now we're reinforcing ourselves by stating, oh, I'm a person who shows up early. And then we
Right.
reinforce the thought by taking that action and showing up early. And then it gets further reinforced with people are like, "Oh my gosh, you're the first one here. It's so great. I love when people are early." And before you know it, We've identified ourselves as somebody who shows up early, and we're now in the habit. So the
Right.
process is the first step. There's really only 3 steps here. The first step is awareness. What are you thinking or what do you wanna do that's in your life that's not working for you now that you would like to change? What is it? Name it. And what do you want to decide to think about it or think about you? And you keep reinforcing that to yourself day in and day out. That so it's awareness, right? So we get to
Mhm.
be aware of like what are we currently thinking? And you can ask, is that thought helpful for me? Right? Or is it true? Like really true? Could I prove it in a
Right.
court of law? Is it true? Right?
Right.
And if not, what do I want to think instead? Perspective is everything,
Mhm.
right? It's the same reason you can have two people doing the same thing and someone is extraordinarily successful and the other is not, right? It has nothing to do with what they're doing, but everything to do with the way that they are thinking and their perspective and the choices they are making that have them show up differently over and over that create those results. It's
Right.
not magic, right? It's actually
No,
just
it's
science.
self-awareness is what it is. It's
Yes.
it's it's really all about self-awareness. I mean, once you can observe yourself and you can stop yourself in the moment and self-reflect, that's half the battle. I mean,
Yeah,
that's it. And I think
yeah,
it's really important to for people to know too is that, when we enforce the negative, when we enforce those self-limiting thoughts, it just gets stronger and stronger. So like that was a game changer for me when I was going through my whole like personal development. And when I was told that, you can actually enforce those thoughts. So if you're thinking something
mhm,
negative or you're looping, as they refer to it, if you keep
mhm,
doing it, you're going to almost like hardwire it like a hard drive. And so
absolutely.
when I heard that, I'm like, geez, I certainly
Mhm.
don't want to make it hardwired in my system, like that kind of like
Yes,
so I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. So that like it's that worked for me. I mean, everybody has to have their own thing that like
yes,
their aha moment, but it's true. If we keep enforcing the negatives or our self-limiting beliefs or negative self-talk, then that's what we're gonna be. And like you're
right.
saying, we can do the opposite and
Mhm.
enforce the positive way and reframing it,
Yes, and all
reframing the
it
situation.
is yeah, what you just described, right? That's actually the neuroscience behind it, right? It's just the rewiring of our brain. I liken it to we're just taking a path through the woods every
Mhm.
day. The path that we're on that's not working for us, it's just well worn. It's just the way that our brain is used to taking. So when we're intentional, when we have
Right.
awareness and then we make choice, and
Right.
we're intentional about taking actions that align to that choice over and over and over, what we're doing is taking a new path through the woods. And at first it's gonna be real weedy, right? Like it's gonna be we'll do
Mhm.
it and then we
Yeah.
we won't. We'll take the well-worn path and we'll take the other one, more and more until that path becomes the main well-worn path.
Mhm.
The other one starts to weed over, right? And it's not that you won't ever take it. Sometimes you'll be just, "Oh, I'm automatic and I went down the weeded over path again. Oh, oops. Okay, let me just course correct and let me take the well-worn one again." That's all that's happening, right? That
Right.
really is from a scientific level all we're doing, right? That's
Right.
it's the way our brain think of it, it really is flexible. We really can shift it. And it's just
Right.
intentionality, that self-awareness, making a choice, and then consistently
Consistent.
choosing to take a simple action
Mhm.
towards it. You're just training the brain, "Oh, this is what we do now." Right?
Yep.
And brain
Yep.
will resist it. It'll be like, "Hold on a minute. What are we doing? We're used to this
Mhm.
path over here." "Oh, no, no, no. We're doing a new one." And we just keep doing
Yeah.
it. And after a while, the brain will be like, "Oh, this is just what we do now." And then you start to ingrain it as part of your new identity.
Right. Right.
So powerful.
It's very powerful, and I've done it, I've experienced it, it's changed my life. I'm just putting it out there. I mean, this is like some of the best training you can possibly get. It
Yeah.
is seriously life-changing, and the beauty is you become so self-aware that if you do wanna go down that other path, that other road, it's like, no, I don't know if I want that because I don't want the consequences to be what they
Yeah.
might be, and I'll get all upset, it's gonna make my day crazy, or I'm gonna be upset for the whole day." Like, "No, I think I'm gonna pivot, and I'm gonna go down the new neural pathway." And the
Yeah.
more you consistently make those choices, it's just, it's very powerful. It
Mm,
really truly is. Yeah, I think it's
yeah.
great that you're bringing this into uh, the corporate world, women in general. I mean, all, women and men, obviously, but just
Mm,
really raising awareness about this because it's so important. I mean, I really believe
yeah.
like if we work on ourselves, that's how we change the world. We really do because we change everybody around us.
100%.
We change our families, our coworkers, our friends, and then it's a ripple effect. And before you know it, the whole world is just that's how we uplift the world. I mean, it's just such a simple concept,
Absolutely.
right?
Sonna, you are singing my language. It really like the real reason I do this in the world is I know that this is what it takes to actually change
Yeah.
everything in the world. And it starts with us. We go first. We do the work.
Hmm.
We lead ourselves. And by nature of being the example, right, we are creating
Right.
that ripple
Mhm.
effect. Like that is really how we change everything and uplift the world. Yeah, I'm so
So
with you on
true.
that.
So true. So, Lori, where can people get a hold of you? And I think you mentioned that you have something that they might be able to download or get something free that
Yeah.
that would help them.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to my website, which is just my name, lauriescheibel.com. I also have an Instagram account, which is at Laurie Scheibel Coaching.
Can you spell
And
that too? Because we have a
absolutely.
lot of listeners that are just listening and they're not, some of them aren't on social media, but could you spell that for them?
Yeah. Yeah. So the name, it's Laurie Scheibel, LaurieSchible.
Great.
Yes. Yeah, so you can look me up there. I am also on Facebook. I'm pretty easy to find because my name is Lori Alphabet Scheibel. That's a nickname. Another story for another time, but it makes it really easy to find me. So Lori Alphabet Scheibel on Facebook, and I give out a ton of value and just sources and like this work has to get out in the world, right? So I'm always sharing a lot of things. And for anybody who is interested, I did put a guide together on 5 shifts to reclaim your power and your energy as a high achieving woman. So you can go to my website at lauriescheibel.com. There's you can either email me, right? I have a way that you can email me and just make the request. And if you want to talk more, I would love to connect. I really love connecting and engaging. Yeah, so you can go to the website and download that as well, as another resource for you. And really, any if you want to just connect and just discuss because like you're really like jazzed and hyped about mindset work and emotional healing and wellness, like I am all about it. I love creating connections. And if this feels like something that can really support you, please feel free to reach out. I always open up for consults, and we can just dig further into your specifics and see if this work really could support you.
Yes. Yes. That's great. So, Lori, what would be your biggest, like, what do you think the biggest life lesson out of all of this so
Uh,
far in your life? What would it be?
oh my goodness, that's such
I
a
mean, there's so many, I'm sure,
challenging
but what's
question.
the
I
biggest one?
know.
What was like your biggest aha or your biggest hurdle that you finally like, wow, like how did I not get that? And I get it now.
Yeah. Yeah. I really honestly, I think the epiphany for me is when I got that it was me, right? It's like the Taylor Swift song, like, "Hello, it's me," right? When I got I was the one in my own way, I
Yeah.
was the one creating all of this through my own thoughts and feelings and how I reacted to it all in the world, that changed everything for me.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite quotes is, "When you change, everything around you changes."
Yeah.
And I really, I used to hear that and I didn't get it to the level that I actually get it now. It really is so valuable because when you change, your perspective on how you see other people and the world completely
Hmm.
changes. That changes your whole life. Your environment doesn't have to change
Right.
at all for everything to change. That's
Right.
how
Right.
powerful it is.
That's growth. So we have about a minute and a half, 2 minutes left. And I know that you have something that's a fun fact that I wanted to ask you about. It's like something like really cool that you do. And I want everybody to know because I think this is super cool. And I'd love to see it in action. But can you tell what is the fun fact about you, Lori, that you want to
Yeah.
tell everybody?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I grew up performing. I used to dance and I showed horses and all that thing. So in my adult life, I'm like, I would just love to have this outlet. So I decided to take an improv class. So 6 years later, I am now I've now been on a performing improv team for the last 6 years, and it is such a blast. I love it. It is a great performance outlet, and I will tell you the unexpected gift. I have learned so many valuable life and business tools, lessons from improv, like
Wow.
being
It keeps you on
present.
your toes, right? I mean, you really got
Oh
to
my
be in the
gosh, yeah.
moment.
So many
Yeah.
valuable life lessons that were unexpected for me that are just awesome. But we have a lot of fun.
That's great. Well, Lori, it has been so nice having you on the show today. And thank you so much for, a wealth of wisdom. And I know that there are people that can relate. And whether they're in the working world or not, it doesn't really matter. I mean, these are skills and, processes that we can use to, connect to ourselves and to have
Mhm.
a more fulfilling conscious life and to take care of ourselves so that we're able to like show up for everybody else. I mean, we have to show up for ourselves first.
Yeah.
So this is really, really important information. And everybody, Laurie Schible, please reach out to her. And for those of you, I love your feedback. And if you'd like to reach out to me, you can reach out at sonnalife.com. It's SONNALIFE.com. And thank you so much for listening this week. And join me next week on Up Close and Empowered. And have a great rest of the evening.